7:35, real quick, getting to our guest this morning by telephone, Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Go ahead.
Governor, are you there?
I'm here.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning. Great to be with you. It's a wonderful day.
It's an honor to have you on the radio program. Bob Zdora is joining us here. He's
Morning,
part of the Marion
Morning,
County
Bob.
Republican Committee. And, Governor, the one thing I wanted the public to hear, and I wanted to hear from our governor because you know how us press people can be, and we kind of twist things around sometimes. Let's talk about private option and the fact that you want to call a special session, which I admire that because that way you focus on that topic in its entirety. But now, it's like I was telling Bob a little bit ago, we have some people that are saying, well, all the governor's going to do is take it out of one jar and put it in a different jar with another label, like me putting orange juice in the gas can and saying, well, see, it says gasoline, but it's still orange juice in the bottle. I want to hear from our governor, what plan of action are we going to take?
Well, I've made it clear from the beginning, this is not just about relabeling a product. This is about coming up with an Arkansas solution that fits for us. And if anyone says this is just going to be a relabeling of the private option, then they're trying to predict the future, which is unpredictable, because we have a legislative task force that's going to work and determine and make recommendations on what our next step is in Arkansas. And that task force has got a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of unknown ingredients, and so it's totally unpredictable as to exactly what the outcome will be, other than the fact that they're going to put, and I will be working on it as well, a lot of thought into it. And the factors to me that are important are, first of all, what it's going to cost to us down the road, and make sure we have a health care system that we can afford. And secondly, we want to make sure it works for Arkansas. Obviously has a compassion element to it, but there's a lot of different ways to deliver our health care services to those that are the working poor, and we just got to figure that out, and that's what the task force is going to meet and try to determine. So let's give it a chance to work, and I know they're going to work very hard. We're going to work very hard to come up with the right solution for Arkansas. The second part of your question was about the special session, and this was really understood from the very beginning that whatever the task force comes up with and recommends has got to come back to the legislature for adoption. And so it was sort of understood from the very beginning that this will necessitate a special session, and it's probably is not going to be until next year at some point, because the task force has a lot of work to do. But eventually they'll have to come back because we need to pass new laws. We need to seek waivers from the federal government as broad as we can for whatever program we come up with in this state.
Okay, because when I was reading the paper, it sounded like the legislatures just barely got home to unpack the suitcase, and now it's time to go back for another special session. So this may be perhaps 2016, sir?
Yes, that's a fairly sensational reporting. I state the obvious, but they act like that's a big headline because we're going to have a special session down the road. So, and I've always said, there's more work to be done. We had a very quick session, which I think is the right thing to do. I think it was 81 days, one of the quickest sessions we've had in recent memory. So we went home, but there's more work to be done. But there's nothing set, and it'll be further down the road.
One thing I wanted to ask, and this is, we can see some of the points here, but we wanted to find out the appointment of Johnny Key as Education Commissioner, and the law had to be changed to lower those credentials. And some of the people in this part of the state are saying, well, what if there's a teacher, a potential teacher, that could teach but can't quite make the credentials? And I understand my county judge made a good point, says, well, maybe it's good to have Johnny in there because he's on the outside looking in, and that may be a better fit. And then there were some other parameters that I agreed with our county judge, Mickey Pendergast. It made some good points. I'm not saying that Johnny's a poor decision, but people are asking, why did we have to change the law to get him in there?
Well, we actually have changed the law to allow for alternative certifications for teachers to make even our teachers in the classroom more flexible, and to allow different career expertise to come in and work in the classroom. You obviously want to have highly qualified people. Johnny Key is probably as highly credentialed as anyone in terms of education policy and working on education issues. most importantly, I need someone there that is a good conservative, that understands choices in education, that can work in a bipartisan way and across the board to get some really good things done in education. Johnny Key is the right one. I think the vote in the legislature and the support that he generated reflects that. I'm so excited about him being there. We've got some huge responsibilities that we're working on together, such as the Little Rock schools that the largest school district in the state has State Board of Education took it over for academic non-performance in 6 schools. These are heavy challenges for us. I have to have somebody like Johnny Key in there that understands education, but also I trust completely and understands where we need to go in this state.
I appreciate your comments on that, Bob.
He's an excellent choice because he knows the system that is going to be needed for the education policies to be enacted. He comes from the legislature, and he knows what it takes to get things done.
It brings that conservative edge in there.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So I personally, I thought he was an excellent choice. I'm sure that some of the educators think that they've been slighted because of the ways that the other law had been written. But I think that the exception on this is he'll be great. He'll be great.
You want to ask the governor about the?
I did. Governor, my name is Bob Zdora. I'm in Marion County, and I was at the quorum court last night. And an issue that we've had in Marion County has been this concept of our jail is in bad shape. I think is a safe thing to say, and the concept of the regional correctional facilities that have been bantered about. And we're just kind of curious as to where your thoughts were on those.
Well, it's a new concept. It's an option that we can look at and partner with our counties if it fits for them and for the state. The way I envision it is if there is a county that wants to explore a regional jail concept, then they can get support in their quorum court. They can come to the state and say, we're going to look at building a facility. Can we have a guarantee of 200 or some fixed number of state prisoners for the next 5 years, or work out a contract with the state? That way you've got a revenue stream from the state that will help pay for the jail, and we negotiate it. But it's an option that has not been utilized before. Thus far, we don't have any counties that have knock down our door and say this is what we want to do, but I know that there's some that's exploring it, and so it has the potential of saving the state some money, allowing prisoners to be housed more regionally, and these are more of the short-term prisoners, and then it gives the counties an option to say this will help us in our own county to partner with the state and have a funding partner with a challenge that they face.
Well, I think that would help a great deal. And people need to understand that that's what it is. It's going to be a jail. It's not going to be a prison. And so the prisoners, the inmates that will be there are not going to be all hardened criminals. They're going to be more people that are in there for lesser offenses and looking to get rehabilitated in some form or another.
Yeah, but what you've outlined is a little bit of a challenge because say someone, if you go to prison, it's a fairly serious offense anyway. It could be residential robbery. It could be repeat offenders. It could be manufacturing of drugs. And these usually get, it might be 10 to 15 years. They, wind up serving 5 years or 4 years or lesser time. And that might be a good fit for a regional jail concept. Obviously, if you have someone that's charged with a capital murder or convicted of the more serious and dangerous offenses, they're ones that need to go down to the state prison for a more secure facility. Mm-hmm. So but the other part of the challenge is if you have somebody in a regional jail for 3 years, you've got the challenge of do they need drug counseling? Do they have mental health issues? These kinds of, and how about the work responsibilities down in the state prison? They're out on the farm working or in some other capacity. sometimes it's harder to manage that from a county jail perspective. So this is a new concept that all these details have to be worked out and determine whether it's the right thing for the county and the state.
Governor, one other thing I want to ask you real quick, the appointment of Judge Sean Womack to the position on the Supreme Court. Can you explain that a little bit? It's in the newspaper this morning.
Well, it's interesting. You never know what you're going to see when you wake up and read the newspaper. There was the main thing to me is that this was a case that was dragging on, and anybody who's in the judicial system needs to have a timely decision, and so I felt there was some urgency to get these special justices appointed. And there's two parts to this case. There's the substantive case as to the gay marriage ban in Arkansas and whether that's constitutional or not. And then there's a separate case. It's a procedural case as to who should sit on that. So this is the procedural part of the case. And I made 3 appointments, and I looked at their legal credentials and their availability. And, I have a circuit judge, Judge Sean Womack, who has a distinguished record. I have a former Supreme Court Judge, Betty Dickey, who can challenge her credentials, and then another distinguished lawyer, Brett Watson. All 3 of these tremendous credentials. And unbeknownst to me, at least according to the paper, there's been some comments 10 years ago that reflect, a viewpoint on this. But the interesting thing is that I think it was Judge Womack had voted on a bill in the legislature about foster care, and that was later overturned by the Supreme Court, in which Betty Dickey was on the court at that time and voted to overturn it. So you've really got a balance of history here, and so I think the main thing is they're highly credentialed. That's what we need, and so I'm very proud of those appointments.
I'm thrilled to see the appointment of Judge
Excellent
Womack.
choice.
You bet.
Yeah.
Governor, final thoughts. We've done about the last minute, sir, and what would you like for the folks of North Central Arkansas to hear from their governor?
I'm looking forward to being there Saturday for the Lincoln Day
town.
dinner. I know, Dale, I'm going to talk about you all the time.
That's right.
No, I'm just looking forward to being there and glad the session's over. I'm just blessed to be governor, and the people, our economy is moving forward, and we're working hard on it every day.
Governor Hutchinson, we appreciate your work and what you're doing for Arkansas. Appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Time for the Sean Hannity Daily Update. Be right back. 7:52.
Yes, sir.
It's raining again.
Man, enough.
We appreciate Governor Asa Hutchinson taking the time to call. And
How'd you like to be in his shoes?
How'd you like to be in his shoes?
Oh, yeah. Those are...
Get a load of this. He was inaugurated on the 13th of January. The 15th of January, him and Kelly Lincoln, I think it was Jeremy Hutchinson, went to Washington to look at the private option issue and the Obamacare. Came back. The session started mid-February. Now we're just out of session. This is really the first time since January he's had a chance to and just kind of sit back and look at things,
And when he came in, I mean, his inaugural address came in with real plans, not maybe might. I mean, he came in with definitive goals and set them, and they're doing their best to hit them. It's a big process, and there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of balls up in the air to get this all together. Yeah. And by this commission, they're going to do what they're going to do. I mean, he's made his appointees, and some will be popular, some won't, but they'll come to the right decision for the majority of the people. That's the thing. I mean, not everyone's going to not everyone likes anything, and that's the way it should be, actually, in all things. Mm-hmm. Some people are going to disagree, some more than others, but it's something that needs to be done. They said they were going to look at it from the bottom up. We're not just going to cast these people to the curb. I mean, it's...
And when I read that article in the paper, I literally understood, like, oh, wow, he's going to be in session that quick, because we're wanting to plan to get some of the legislators together. I thought, well, he's going to have a special session. The way I understood
I'm shocked that the Baxter Bulletin would maybe not be as clear as we may hope.
Yeah, well...
I'm shocked.
And to hear the governor chuckling, well, it's going to be sometime next year. Well, that gives me a little bit more leeway.
Well, yeah, because that's when the special session would be, and that'll give them a chance to get up and rolling.
And to understand the special session, once it goes through the proper channels and the governor orders the special session, that is all that can be handled.
Right.
So anything that is to be brought to the floors of the House and Senate has to be pre-approved, and that's all that can be discussed.
Right. And it gives more of a reality to this concept of part-time legislatures, and this is a full-time job for these people, and these if you call Kelly Link or whoever, Nelda Speaks, whoever it is that you may be,
he's working on a committee in Little Rock.
He is, and he's down there now. We're trying to get a hold of him to do something up here, and he's down there. I mean, it's these things continue, and the business of government continues far beyond the time that session is open.
And people talk about the raise. Well, they voted themselves a raise. No, they eliminated the $14,500 allotment for the office space, put that in as a salary pack, and raised them $9,000. They're just barely under $40,000.
Which.
So, okay.
I had no issue.
Final 30 seconds. Thank you for coming in and co-hosting and visiting with the governor.
Come in and try to help out a little bit where I can. That's good.
Wish the governor well, and I hate I'm going to miss his talk on Saturday, but I planned this vacation before I knew that he's going to be here on the 18th.
He'll be here on the 18th. He'll be at the Republican
dinner,
the Lincoln Day dinner here in Baxter County, and he'll do a good job as a speaker, and it'll be a good event.
And once again, thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome.
And wraps it up. We've got the Rush Morning Update, followed by Glenn Beck.
Try to stay dry. You look a little pruny, buddy.
We'll see you tomorrow.